What's going on, everybody? Ian Hartitz here, lead fantasy football analyst over at Pro Football Focus, doing a sleeper mock draft today. And if you got some questions, happy to help out with anything regarding fantasy football drafts, week one matchups, trades, life questions, whatever is on your mind. I will do my best to try to at least give you an answer for it. So, with that said, shout out to Sleeper, in my opinion, the single best redraft platform you can play at. Yahoo, ESPN. I know we all still have leagues there, but Sleeper, in terms of customizable settings and just the mock drafts, everything they bring to the table, I love it. And I love their ability to continue to improve year after year after year. So, going to be doing a little bit of a mock draft here for those of you that haven't gotten your drafts done yet. Fair play to you for waiting this long, maybe losing a little bit of the edge if you happen to cover things all year round, but it is what it is. Still very much a great day to be great. So got a little 12 team PPR action going on here. I went ahead and took the 1.6 spot. Got to get a little bit of an auto pick going on here. But guys, I've loved picking out of kind of the back half of the draft all year long with this. So it's one of those things where, hey, if you, you get the right guys to fall to you down here, I just think you have the better chance at value. So got to love, when the auto picks are just giving me crazy value. Christian McCaffrey at 106. You can imagine a freaking world. I've actually gotten people tell me that they've actually been in real life leagues that apparently McCaffrey literally falls like to 108. I never thought like enough of these people. Okay, there we go. Now we're catching up. I never thought enough of these people like actually existed to go ahead and like unironically fade Christian McCaffrey, but they're out there, everyone. So getting in to round three now, the Jonathan Taylor Cooper Cup fabled start from the 106. Maybe the first time that's ever happened in the history of a mock draft, but hey, we'll take it. Why not? Looking at this next, AJ Brown off the board right before me. So Leonard Fournette, James Conner. I've been putting together my ranks for week one, just over the last few days. We're now in that content grind, and Fournette and Conner. I know the hesitations you guys had about drafting them in the first place, but now that we're here, now that we're in week one and we're not ranking season long, we're just ranking this week. It's really tough to get away from either of these guys just doing big things, every single week because they don't get hurt. They're both looking at 20 plus touches and they're both in pretty damn good offenses to begin with, obviously led by Tom Brady and Kyler Murray. So James Conner case, the interesting subplot is like, all right, his touchdowns going to regress. But when you look at Kyler, like they refuse to actually use him on QB sneaks, just one career quarterback sneak. Meanwhile, Colt McCoy and Chris Streveler, I think the CFL dude that started the game, they've actually had like 5 QB sneaks in limited action. So it really has been a pure, schematic decision from the Cardinals to actually not use Kyler Murray on QB sneaks. And I do think it's a reasonable, proposition to be just thinking that, hey, he's going to keep on keeping on, he being James Conner. So now in the middle of round 4, just missed ETN. That's unfortunate. Love getting him right here, but I already have, 2 running backs on the squad anyway. I think I can probably go ahead and get the best wide receiver available. I have Mike Williams actually ranked ahead of DJ Moore, but I'm going to play the ADP game, go ahead and add Baker Mayfield's wide receiver 1 to the squad. So wouldn't it be great if DJ Moore could just score more than 4 touchdowns one of these seasons? Like DJ, Jacoby Myers, all these guys, man, just it's insane. I do think that scoring touchdowns is certainly a skill to some extent. We just really haven't figured out the best way to measure that. But you guys have played ball before, that's the best guys are finding their way into the end zone more often for a reason. But in fantasy land, that's frowned upon. We're only supposed to follow yards because those are more stable year over year. Anyway, Mike Williams goes right before me here. Hate getting sniped on that one, but I will not panic. There are some good quarterbacks available, but I'm going to go ahead and gamble that I can get one of Jalen or Kyler Murray to fall to me in round 6. I think Joe Burrow going, as the 52nd player off the board is one of the most egregious drafting mistakes really of the offseason. I'm going to focus in on wide receiver and take Marquise Brown ahead of Allen Robinson. I think it's close. Marquise Brown's another one, though, where, yeah, we kind of have him in the upside wide receiver 2 range throughout draft season. Maybe you actually view him a little higher, but we know what's going to happen when DeAndre Hopkins is back, and he's going to move down the ranks. But when DeAndre Hopkins isn't here, Marquise Brown is a top 12 wide receiver for me this week. I just think that when you start looking at that Cardinals offense, even Antoine Wesley is on IR at this point. So it's really going to be Marquise Brown, AJ Green, and Rondale Moore until DeAndre Hopkins gets back, at least for the foreseeable future. And God forbid the Rondale Moore undisclosed injury is serious, and I don't think it is. He was already back practicing on Monday. If that is serious, though, it's a situation where Marquise Brown could be looking at 10 plus targets on a weekly basis. I'm going to go ahead and keep going the wide receiver. Well, Chris Godwin just had a full practice today, and I will happily, take that discount on him. So Chris Godwin, Michael Thomas, really once we got this good news from both of them, just not being on the pup list to begin with, I confidently moved them up into the top 20. There's not another wide receiver going in this spot that literally just needs to be on the field, and all of a sudden we're going to be ranking them like way ahead of where they're actually going. So to be able to get Godwin and Michael Thomas in the 6th round, guys. And they're like your wide receiver. They're my wide receiver 4 at this point. It just really helps you build a strength there at wide receiver. And this is a good spot, honestly, where I'm not going to be against taking a certain DeAndre Hopkins here because, look, I already have 4 wide receivers. I got Kupp, DJ Moore, Marquise Brown, Chris Godwin. Already got my 2 running backs. The tight ends are flying off the board a little fast. I'm not going to chase, trying to catch up here. I think getting DeAndre Hopkins, being able to have him down the stretch. Now, I did stack the Marquise Brown, DeAndre Hopkins there. A little bit happy it's a mock draft from that perspective. But when you do, look at Hopkins, similar to what I was just saying about Godwin and Michael Thomas, we know that they're going to be on the field eventually. And when they're on the field, they're going to be ranked a hell of a lot higher than where they're being drafted right now. So I think that, the Hopkins 6-game suspension is more than being baked into his ADP at the moment. Another pick on the board. Elijah Moore standing out to me here. Let's just keep getting some great wide receivers. People are going to take tight ends and quarterbacks. I am happy to just buy that discount there. From Hear You, that's a pretty dope avatar you got there, man. Yeah, Dameon Pierce. I think he's perfectly reasonable right around this kind of, let's see, 5th. I would really prefer 6th or 7th round with him. I would not go much higher. At the end of the day, Dameon Pierce, yes, it's awesome he got that starting job. He was being treated as like an RB4, RB5, and he's vaulted up because of that. But it's similar to the Isaiah Pacheco kind of just era lifestyle thing that's going on here where obviously they're moving up the ranks a ton, but let's be careful and not just take all the hype, all the chatter as like, okay, this guy now needs to go in the first 4 rounds of the draft. Dameon Pierce is the Texans starting running back. We also still fully expect the Texans to be quite terrible this season. And I think that he's still going to be unfortunately losing a lot of pass down work to either Rex Burkhead or Dari Ogunbowale. So we don't really like early down backs, and maybe Pierce does just win the full 3-down role eventually. I'm not certain that's going to be the case though, particularly early in the season. And then we're potentially left with an early down committee back and a terrible offense, like a worse version of like an Antonio Gibson, Josh Jacobs at this point. So maybe Dameon Pierce is just special enough that he's going to overcome all that, average 6 yards per carry and do his thing. But guys, generally at running back, I want to follow that sweet volume. And again, Dameon Pierce has a ton more volume now than we ever dreamed he was going to have, even a month ago. And yeah, we could all look at the Texans depth chart and see it wasn't great. And I've seen Dameon Pierce's, efficiency numbers at Florida. He just didn't have the touches. So I don't think it was rocket science to figure out he had upside here, but just getting all the confirmation, it certainly made him a viable 6th, 7th round pick. With that said, when it's between him and guys like Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, I just think in that range, there's still a lot more upside you can potentially get at quarterback and wide receiver. So moving right along, I got my first quarterback with Trey Lance. I'm going to get another running back here in Michael Carter. Apparently, the Jets RB1 right now, but the cool thing about the Jets, not that there's that many cool things. Sorry, Jets fans. I didn't mean it. I want you guys to be good. I love that hype dance video from a few years ago, but now no one on that defense is still on the team. But Carter, Breece Hall, it's a 2 running back backfield. Like they're pretty much like a poor man's version of kind of like the Denver Broncos. That's how I think about that backfield because Carter, Breece Hall, obviously, we're favoring Breece Hall, just like we're favoring Javonte over in Denver. But I think Melvin Gordon and over here, Michael Carter have legit chances to just have some standalone value. And God forbid something happens to the other guy, they could go to the moon. So we always talk about what would Javonte Williams be without Melvin Gordon? Well, Melvin Gordon be without Javonte Williams? Probably a weekly RB1, RB2 at worst. And I think, we talk the same thing about Breece Hall without Michael Carter. The Jets gave Michael Carter, 70% plus snaps in 3 different games last year. So I do think that Michael Carter is being underappreciated in terms of his potential range of outcomes. Snagging Julio Jones right now. Wide receiver 7 here. I was joking around earlier today. Julio Jones got the number 6 jersey change, so he's going to go for 1,200 yards and like 3 touchdowns this year in typical Julio fashion. There we go. Josh Jacobs and Elijah Mitchell on the squad. Yeah, I don't love those, man. It all depends on the value, though. That's the thing. Like, the quote unquote, the RB dead zone, and these guys, Gibson, Josh Jacobs, Elijah Mitchell, all kind of being stuck in that area. It's because they're stuck in that area. Like round 4, round 5, Josh Jacobs. No, round 8, round 9, Josh Jacobs. Okay, now we're talking. Same thing with Antonio Gibson. Do not hate the player, hate the ADP as we're getting into round 12. Hey, I'm flying through this, but any of you guys out there, any more questions, please send them through. Happy to answer whatever. I'm going to take some upside here and go. See, I already have Fournette. I don't really think you should be cuffing your own running backs if you can help it, because it just doesn't give you, 2 best case scenarios. I'm looking at Khalil Herbert here. I'm going to snag him. Lesser extent to Michael Carter and some of these other guys, Darrell Henderson. I'm not nearly as confident in Khalil Herbert getting the weekly workload like those guys do. With that said, based on that preseason usage in Chicago, when Dave Montgomery was getting the starters rest, Khalil Herbert was getting each and every snap with the first team offense. So if something happens to Dave Montgomery, I do think Herbert could once again be positioned to get that every down role that we really saw last year when Montgomery missed times, but new coaching staffs couldn't assume. Now I feel more confident in knowing that. So credit to you if you just assumed from the beginning, you didn't have to worry about it. But right here, last running back, Rashad White versus Jamal Williams is tough. I'll say this about handcuffing your own running back. So normally I don't think you need to, but that's more so like if you have Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard. I don't like the idea of handcuffing your own running backs because you're implying now that one of your early round picks is going to completely bust. And if you're taking them, Zeke in round 4, Tony Pollard in round 9, or like round 7, okay, now your 4th or 7th round pick almost certainly is not going to work out. Every now and then, we see this happen, the Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram year, and it does happen from time to time, but not nearly as often as one offense enabling multiple wide receivers. And I just think when you actually, start to look at it, having, Alexander Madison as as a handcuff instead of a Pollard round valuation, considered into that. Like now, if Zeke balls out and Dalvin Cook gets hurt, you have 2 high-end assets. It's just tough to get that, best case scenario from both guys on the same team. So defense here, some of the top defenses of the week: Colts, Broncos, 49ers especially. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Colts here. If you're still looking for a defense, I did a study before the season started. Colts, Broncos, 49ers, and Browns. Those were the 3 squads that had the best combination of havoc, making things happen, like actually being good, then also just having a super soft opening schedule. So Eagles are pretty close. I mean, you look at the just free agent, not even free agent, but free agent, the trades, everything they did in that defense, getting Jordan Davis in the draft. Like, I do think the Eagles could be there. They got to deal with the Vikings in week 2, but it's Kirk Cousins on Monday night. If we're just going to be going storyline season, I don't see any problem with going with the Eagles for the first 4 weeks. They're not going to be an egregious play in week 2. I don't care about kickers, so we're not even going to analyze that one. So, all right, everyone, it was a little bit wonky in the beginning. I'm not exactly sure why. I would not expect to get Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp starting off your draft from the 106 spot, but I think after that we actually did get a decent read on this. So Taylor, Fournette, Kupp, DJ Moore, Marquise Brown, Chris Godwin, DeAndre Hopkins, Elijah Moore, Trey Lance. Man, I wish this was a real draft. I'd be feeling like I'm freaking on top of the world right now. Michael Carter, Khalil Herbert, Rashad White, some good potential handcuffs down the road. When you're picking late round running backs, just really try to think about the player's best case scenario. What is JD McKissic ever going to do this year? He's going to be a PPR only back that has a decent floor and not much of a ceiling. Tyler Algier, what's his best case scenario? Winning the early down job in a terrible offense. Like, do we really think Mark Ingram is going to be able to handle a feature workload for any amount of extended time if Alvin Kamara happens to get injured? I don't really think so. So Isaiah Spiller, it's a real muddled Chargers committee right now. When they bring in Sony Michel, hell, he should probably be considered the favorite at that point. Even, guys just looking up even further on the list, James Cook, I'm starting to wonder exactly what we should be thinking about him, because if Devin Singletary gets hurt, are we positive that James Cook role changes all that much? So that's the tricky part with some of these scat backs. Like, for every Tony Paul, and I'm not saying that Not saying these guys are scat backs, but if their team's going to treat them like scat backs, I mean, who cares then? Like, doesn't matter what they can do. It doesn't matter what we think. If the team refuses to put them in that position, they're not getting the opportunity to get the volume. So guys like J.D. McKissick, maybe Kenneth Gainwell, I just think they're being typecast a little bit by their own teams as people that can't handle that early down work. So Tony Pollard can, Naeem Hines. It's one of those situations where I don't think Hines would, completely take over for Jonathan Taylor or anything if he happens to get hurt. But an Austin Eckler type, PPR friendly role really could be on the table for Hines. Got that real good first team preseason usage indications before. So, all right, everyone, it's going to wrap up this little stream. I'm going to be back tomorrow morning doing another sleeper mock draft. If you guys have fantasy football drafts coming up, really invite you to check out our new PFF app. You can get it for free before the season starts. So if you still have that, draft coming up, there's absolutely no reasons why you can't have it. Rankings from myself, Dre McFarland, Nathan Yonke, Kevin Cole. Draft strategy mode helps, show you the picks as you go by. Again, check it in the Apple App Store, PFF new app. And if you like it, maybe give it a nice review. I don't know. I'm not going to beg you to do it. I always think it's kind of weird when people do that, but if you like it, why not? We can review things that we just like instead of not hating, instead of that we hate, right? In a society in 2022, why the hell not? So let's go wrap this up. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Ian Hartitz. Until next time, take care, everybody.